TRA was on the back post in the first sequence that Hernandez tried to play it through. TRA couldn't get to it. The defender, who was draped all over him, got a touch.
Here's a steal off TRA. He will turn and shoot, score! He scores! I don't believe it! The goalkeeper put the ball down. TRA took it away from him and scored. And Atlanta United might have just pulled off grand theft.
Jamal TRA was playing possum behind the play. Luka Gavrin forgot about him. And TRA with the steal of the century.
It is an absolute miracle. Luka Gavrin with one of the all-time miscues that may have just gifted Atlanta United 3 points.
Give TRA all the credit in the world. TRA was playing possum behind him.
You know what
Gavrin
that was?
Didn't see him.
You know what that was? Jose Alvarado's sneak attack, to use a basketball term. Gavrin was unaware that TRA was behind him. He put the ball down. TRA took it away from him, slammed it into the open net. Toronto now will be allowed to kick off, but how much time is remaining?
Jamal TRA knew exactly what he was doing in that whole sequence. He stopped, he grabbed a drink of water, he was waiting to see if Gavrin would forget it.
Full time! Atlanta United with the steal of the century! They're still undefeated under Rod Valentino, and they've won their first home game in almost 3 months. In the most incredible way imaginable.
So how was your weekend? Once again, thanks to our friends at 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app for that. There's when Darrell Waltrip, and I never thought I would be quoting Darrell Waltrip and Larry McReynolds or quoting NASCAR on the morning show here. But there would be times in finishes for NASCAR events when that was the booth, when it was Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip. And something would happen. Larry Mack would always ask Darrell, have you ever? And then Darrell would go, no, I never. That was a have you ever, no, I never moment. Ran into Garrett Chapman in the halls, and Garrett, his mouth could not have been any more agape. Literally, you had to have a wheelbarrow to scoop up his chin from the floor with what had happened. He was in shock. We'll catch up with Abe Gordon, the other half of the dynamic duo for the pre and the post game show for Atlanta United, coming up in just a little bit. Have you ever? No, I never. And Jamal admitted that he has done that, throughout his career. You'll lurk, see if the keeper's paying attention. And in this case, Luka Gavrin was focused on what was going on in front of him. He got zero feedback from his defenders until it was well too late. And one of his midfielders literally was about 20 yards away, 20 or 25 yards away, and is pointing behind him as soon as Gavrin rolls the ball down on the turf. Jamal runs up, gets the ball, takes it away from Gavrin. The defender who had noticed is sprinting back, trying to keep Jamal from putting a shot on frame. Too late. And Atlanta United ends up getting the win 2-1 in one of the most unheard of ways imaginable. And yes, Abe needs to be properly hydrated for this discussion. Abe Gordon coming up in just a couple minutes. And there are times when you're having a season where we talk about moments. And sometimes these moments just have to happen for things to turn, things to reinforce themselves, for behaviors to reinforce themselves. And sometimes you just got to have a WTF moment that you sit there and it's just you throw your hands up and you're just like, hey, man, we'll take the 3 points and run like hell. And that's what you had on the weekend with Atlanta United. Literally, steal of the century. I mean, this was Grand Theft Jamal. I know that it has been referred to as the Magic City Miracle in other places. I don't know if we should call it Grand Theft Jamal or Grand Theft TRA. Too many syllables, maybe. But that was the biggest thing in the weekend, bar none. Stealing a line from my buddy Gil Tyree. Yeah, can't remember the last time something that wacky and or crazy has finished a weekend involving a team that I was sitting there staring at and covering. And we do have news involving certain players, and I know that it's going to be the least surprising thing ever, but we do have a couple of appendices that are attached to that and other players of note and interest. So now that I'm guessing that Abe is properly hydrated, we will go to the studios of 92.9 The Game in Midtown Atlanta and catch up with our buddy Abe Gordon. Abe, have you recovered Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have. It took a while, and it was, I'm in the booth. I'm mentally preparing for a post game where we're gonna have to talk about certain things. And then just like in the blink of an eye at the end of the game, we no longer have to talk about some of those things. And so very, very difficult's not the right word. You'd much rather have to deal with it. But it's so odd to be in one mental headspace and in the blink of an eye be in a completely different mental headspace. And of course, for the right reasons. We've been in the mental headspace for the wrong reasons. But to see that game flip around like that and look, I lay in bed often at night, unable to sleep, watching YouTube compilations of soccer maneuvers, whether it's highlights, whether it's lowlights, whether it's dudes missing sitters, whether it's goalie save. So I've seen this thing before. Like I've seen probably dozens of instances at top levels where this happens and a keeper rolls the ball. I never thought I'd see it in real life because I swear – it's like a Harlem Globetrotters Washington Generals thing. It has to be a setup, right? It has to be. Can't be real. So I never thought I'd see it in real life. I certainly never thought I'd see it be a deciding moment at the end of the game. And to sit there in the Benz and look, I know the crowd is not the biggest crowd that we've ever had at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, maybe a little bit suckered out from the week and a half that was there at the Benz with some of the Copa America stuff and the U.S. men's national team and everything that's going on. I don't know if I've heard a pop like that and I'm being serious.
Oh, I know.
We've had 70,000, 72,000. I don't know if I've heard a pop like that. And what was interesting and impressive was there was kind of two pops. There was the pop certainly when it happened, but there was a pop when the final whistle blows and Jumbotron kind of zooms in on TRA celebrating the 3 points. And there was a secondary pop there as well. So, I mean, just one of the cooler moments that I've ever been involved with live at a Atlantic sporting event.
It literally, it's like you get that initial moment of you have the oh-ish where did he just do that? And then he scores. You get that initial pop. Fireworks go off. Neil Sika on the call on Apple TV who goes fireworks in Fulton County, and who's been quite literal about it. And then you get it right there at the edge of the match. And then, as Mike says, full time, you get that extra pop.
Yeah.
That's right there with it. And it was, I mean, like I said, Jamal's admitted he's played possum before. And you end up with that kind of a moment. And I was mentioning as you were coming in, it's like sometimes seasons can be defined by these kinds of things. You want to grow from moments like this, no matter how insane they are, and you're still undefeated under Rob Valentino.
Well, look, this is to me taking away the actual lead up and how you got the goal. This to me is the same as that road win against Inter Miami. In the manner of it's not going to mean anything if you don't follow it up. And you've got a road game here, and I understand it's on the road against a team that had been playing well, but they got embarrassed on Saturday night. And so it's an opportunity, right, to continue and find some momentum, because the storyline would have been here, John, another game at home where you couldn't pick up full points.
Mm-hmm.
We're very close to be talking about a winless streak at home that was nearing double digits. All right. Now, in the blink of an eye, you check all that off, cross it off, throw it away, and now we have a new starting point.
Mm-hmm.
But you only see it upward trend if you continue to build off of it. If you continue to slide, if you drop points down the road, on the road, whatever it may be, it's just a moment of blip. What we need this to be is not just a moment of blip, but kind of a continuation of what we have seen under Valentino, but also a real, quote, launching point, taking off point. One of the problems I think you're going to find here in the second half is there's just not very far realistically you can jump in the table. I mean, you obviously are now tied with Toronto. They've got a slight edge because of wins versus draws, stuff like that. You can pass them. You've got, I think it's Nashville that's in 7th. They're a couple points above you. You can catch, potentially pass them. It's going to be a real chore to because there is a large gap, maybe 8 points between where you are, where 7th is, and then where 6th place is. So 6th and 5th, 4th, they're all kind of bunched up, but there's a pretty good gap there. So even if you really do start to climb and find result after result, it's going to be tough to jump extremely high in the table. But there are a couple teams you can catch and pass. You picked up points on 4 teams that were ahead of you on Saturday night alone, an opportunity to do that again on Wednesday. But yeah, if this does turn into a position where you get into the top 7, top 6, you certainly are going to look at this as potentially a turning point in the season. And yeah, obviously you have the generic turning point of the managerial change,
right?
But in terms of on the field, something finally broke your way, and this is what. And this was going to be the other story, by the way, John. If this thing ends 1-1, we're sitting here and it's like, what sort of luck could we possibly have as Atlanta United fans that Sean Johnson is out,
Mm-hmm.
and the dude that steps in the pipes in his place makes a number of incredible saves. And we've seen it year after year, week after week. We've seen it a couple times this season where you have an opportunity for 3 or 4 goals, and the goalkeeper is just standing on his head. Half the saves he doesn't know about. And Luka was all over the place on Saturday night. And it was going to be another situation where we just don't have any luck this season. And that's the thing that could change, because we have had very bad luck, whether it's the red card on Goose, whether it's bad, in my opinion, bad penalties being handed out against United, whether it's – no, I know. It's been bounce after bounce after bounce of bad luck going against Atlanta United. You finally get a moment of good luck. We're not going to apologize at all for the way that these 3 points came our way. And so hopefully you can see things start to even out. This was maybe step 1 towards the luck swinging back in Atlanta United's favor. And I know some people might say you create your own luck. Luck favors the prepared mind, all that crap. But it was nice to see something swing in our way, and hopefully that can continue.
To answer to fill in some of your holes with the standings right now, I think first and foremost you want to get out of that 8-9. You want to get out of the play-in game, and that's, I think, in any conference right now, in any particular postseason. Right now, Toronto and Atlanta tied at 24 points. Toronto has one more win, and Nashville is 26 points. Yes, continue hydrating. Nashville's at 26 points. Nashville's in 7th right now. That gets you out of the play-in, and that gets you into playing the number 2 team, which is right now Cincinnati. Then Charlotte and NYC is that next grouping in Columbus, where really you've got 4 teams separated by 3 points. New York is 3rd at 35, Columbus 33, then NYC and Charlotte. NYC has one more win than Charlotte, 32 and 32 points. But right now, first things first, to your point, get out of the play-in game. You're at the 8-9 right now. Get past Nashville. I think Nashville's probably coming back to the mean after their coaching change and the new coach bump. But right now, 2 points get you out of the play-in, put you in 7th, and then the next thing is chasing after Charlotte and what you need to do there. Them's the standings, sir.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I look at it, maybe some other teams ahead of you start to fold. I don't think you can catch Charlotte, New York City, Columbus, or
NYC.
Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, NYCFC
Right.
or Red Bulls for that matter. I don't think you can catch them on your own. Like, I don't think you could just start to make up points and make up that ground. I think you're going to need a couple of teams to slide. Here's the thing. You got a couple of teams that have been outstanding at home. Charlotte has only one loss at home. Red Bulls have no losses at home this season. Columbus only has one loss at home, although they've tallied up a couple of draws as well. If they start to drop points at home, maybe you can find a way to slide up there. I just think it's going to be really, really tough to get there on your own. You're going to need help from above. So I do think right now you're looking at Toronto and Nashville. And I do think getting out of the 8-9, as you mentioned, climbing up to 7th is incredibly realistic. I don't pretend to know the rest of their schedules and if they've had an easy run so far, a tough run, all that stuff. Nashville looks like they have a lot of road games in this second half. So we'll see if that helps balance them out a little bit. But, yeah, I think realistically, if you can get to 7 and just see what happens from there, that's probably what's realistic.
When you look at where Atlanta United is right now, we are in silly season, and it's still the idea of juggling players for international duty, juggling players because they've been called to teams and things like that. It looks like, according to our Tier 1 sources, that the Eagle Holdings Thiago Almada deal is close. We got a here we go from Fabrizio Romano, but nothing is officially official. Thiago, he stood at his locker after the match was over, and, he says it might be my last game, and was playing everything up positively about his time with Atlanta United, contrary to another individual who's no longer with Atlanta United who didn't do that. Shows you the kind of individual that Thiago Almada is. There's discussion of Caleb Wiley. And this is the other thing that we've got to, I think, brace folks for, is silly season talk can get silly. And when you're hearing folks that are looking at Caleb Wiley that are the likes of Chelsea, that's where we are right now. It's the silly season, and so just continue to brace for impact, I guess. Literally, this is one of those where you sit there and you're in the chair in the airplane, and, Tom Hanks comes on as Sully and says, brace for impact, and you're like this, man, because everything is going to be coming at you from a lot of different angles about the stars and the studs that you got.
Well, I don't know if I want to call it good news, but you've been preparing for life without Almada and Wiley, at least for a stretch here anyways. And, of course, I'm referring to the Olympic tournament that's coming up later this month. So you knew you were going to be without Almada and Wiley for a stretch. I think we've kind of been preparing a little bit over the last month for Almada to go. And we've seen Jay Fortune did, I thought, an outstanding job in the one game that he had without Almada due to yellow card suspension and all that. So you knew this was coming. Now the question is, when it does get done, how quickly can you sign some DPs and replace the outgoing? The other thing about Almada is that I know we've talked about money a little bit, and it was first reported at maybe 20 million. The last reports I saw at 21. But I read that there's potential if he does well and other things happen, it could go as high as 30. That would be the largest transfer in MLS history. So that should tell you the job that Almada has done here while still carrying a heavy value relative to the MLS. And so looking forward to that. Wiley is the one that kind of came out of nowhere. And it's always interesting to see European teams kind of hone in. But in regards to Chelsea, I just feel like I've seen these discussions before and they come nowhere close to ever turning real. And don't get me wrong, I would love this to become a real discussion. I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I would be not even close. I would be incredibly interested, though, to see what Caleb Wiley would look like in the EPL. And I think it would be an incredible step for him. Obviously, it would be an incredible step for American soccer as well, to see a youngster who's really not even on the U.S. men's national team, still getting it done with the youth squad, taking that step. But I just feel like we've had these discussions and I've read them for years, and not much comes of them. So I'm taking that one with a much larger grain of salt than I did with when the Giakoumakis rumors started, which made sense. When the Almada rumors started, which made sense. This one, I'm going to wait for a little bit more confirmation on that one, but we'll see. You know, I also saw earlier today some of our old buddy, some rumors going on about Miggy.
Yep.
You just have to wonder how many people in Atlanta are no longer about to be Newcastle fans. So we'll see if that one tears itself up or not.
Yeah, that one, the new news, allegedly, possibly, probably involving Miggy, is that in order for Newcastle to get closer to PSR, profit and sustainability acceptance in the eyes of the Premier League offices, sorry, as it said, the Prem, you right now, Saudi, the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote, seems to be interested, possibly, probably, perhaps, in getting Miguel Almiron, and so. That was the other news this morning. But this is the time of year, and we've been through it before, where we always sit there and say, you know, PSV Eindhoven with Caleb and all of that. Check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. Make sure that it's not a guy in his basement wearing underoos and yelling at Ma, where's my meatloaf, with that amount of followers. Check your sources, check your track records, check your history with these folks as to how it all lays itself out with news when it comes to players and things like that. In theory, you could have, say, 35 to 40 million-ish to play with if Caleb is transferred out and Thiago, if you say 21 for Thiago, the 10 for Gigi, then say 5 to 10 for Caleb, depending on location and percentage of the pass and all that, you could be making some serious impact and still have some money in the kitty for more moves later if all of these moves do come to pass at the figures that are being thrown around.
Yeah, and the most important part of this is the timing. You already know Gigi's out. There's a spot. You have money. Potentially, Almada could be done, like we said, at some point this week. You'll have a spot. You have money. And you have time. And that's the other aspect of this, because when your window closes, other windows are still open. And what you don't want is it to be pressed up where you don't have time to replace a guy. You know that these two guys are going to be headed out. It feels like, at least. And you already know. And between Lagerwey and Bocanegra, I'm sure they've been zeroing in on a number of different players for each of those positions that would make sense. So the good news is you do have a little bit of time to do your proper homework and figure out a move that makes sense on the field, but also in the checkbook and in the business aspect of things. So I'm excited about the potential. Obviously, Giakoumakis was more of a business decision.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's already hurt.
Yeah,
Shocking.
I know.
Shocking.
Literally, the video comes out where he goes down with an injury, and Abby thinks it's an ankle, but there are no takebacks.
So in terms of how are we going to do without him, I don't know, man. We've done without him for quite a while in terms of never showing up on the field. So good luck to him. Almada will feel differently. I think a lot of people will certainly be following Thiago Almada as he Yorgos is out of sight, out of mind, good riddance, except for the comedic aspect of him getting hurt. Almada a little bit different. There's certainly more of an attachment there, and so we'll pay attention on that front. But yeah, I mean, in terms of these guys heading out, certainly look forward to seeing what Almada can do when he does get to Europe, assuming all of this does go official at some point this week. But you've got some time to play with here to make some adjustments. So I look forward to seeing who they get, who we bring in, and hopefully it's someone we can be excited about. I know sometimes you make moves with an older, more veteran guy, and you're just like, all right, fine. I like the younger guys. I like the up-and-coming prospects. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's part of the risk. But I like taking that chance for the big reward. Certainly it worked for Thiago Almada. It's worked for a couple of other guys, and sometimes it doesn't work. But I like being aggressive with that mindset.
Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Hey, and legitimately, God bless schedule compression, because it being what it is, this morning at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, Caleb Wiley training, Luis Abram is back, so that helps you out at the back line. Not that we didn't get to see the emergence of the younger players like Noah and Ephra as a part of this. Tiago isn't training, but Doug also says that some of the first teamers are doing regen. So you've got literally the quick turnaround once again. I think it's 6 matches before the All-Star break that you have, 2 of them this week, and it's a pain in the you-know-what roadie, where you start with New England, and New England came crashing down to the ground after their recent run of form this past weekend. And then you go from New England, and I'd love to know who the schedule maker was for this, New England to Rio Tinto to take on RSL on the weekend before you come back here and take on Indy 11 in Open Cup on Tuesday, week from tomorrow. Then you go to Montreal. Then you come back, and it's another midweek weekend where it's NYC on the 17th, Columbus on the 20th. Then you've got All-Star break. Then you've got Leagues Cup. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year for all who observe.
Yeah, I mean, the good news, I guess, it's probably not good for, his country, but Georgia was eliminated. You'll get Sabalo Janidze back at some point. Certainly, I would imagine it's not going to be Wednesday.
Yeah.
Poland, we know, has been out. We did see Slish a little bit. He might be there from the start on Wednesday. So you are starting to get some of the guys that you've been without back. You mentioned Abram, which certainly will help boost the back line as well. So you are starting to get a couple of pieces back to deal with it. But yeah, what felt like the 12-day bridge, and then you had a week where you didn't have a midweek game. Glory, glory, hallelujah. But yeah, they're doing no favors. You're right back into it. And as you mentioned, whether Almada's part of this team or not, whether Wiley's part of this team or not, you do know they're going to be gone for the Olympics. And there might be a couple other youngsters heading out as well. So yeah, it's right back to it. But hey, you're not the only team who's got midweek games and weekend games. I know you're kind of boosted with Leagues Cup and U.S. Open Cup that maybe other teams aren't involved in. But, look, they're full match days on Wednesdays, full match days on Saturdays. You're not the only one playing extra games. So you deal with it the same as everyone else. And look, we saw it, on Saturday night. You were missing some players, but, for the first time, it felt like the team you were opposing was missing a couple of players as well. And so kind of all's fair on that one.
All right, before you get out of here, we'd seen the notes on social media.
Yeah.
And Five Stripes don't stop. They officially have not stopped. Today announcing the signing of Portuguese defender Pedro Amador on a free through the 26 MLS season with an option for 27. Amador most recently played for Moreirense in Portugal's Primeira Liga, will occupy an international roster spot pending the receipt of his international transfer certificate and P1 visa. Eligible to play when the secondary transfer window opens on July 18. Quote from Carlos, excited to sign Pedro. I'm paraphrasing and I'm chopping words. Excited to sign Pedro as he'll bring leadership and experience to our backline as we continue to strengthen our roster this summer. 25, coming at a good age from a strong league in Europe. We like his experience of playing more than 100 matches in Portugal, including captaining his team in various matches last season. Look forward to welcoming him to Atlanta, having him join the group. 114 professional appearances in Portugal's first and second divisions, recording a total of 2 goals, 9 assists. Youth career, transferred to Moreirense August of 2020, 80 appearances. Specifically, Amador is a left back. Like left back. There is no maybe left midfield in a 4-3-3 or something like that, but Amador is a left back. His contract expired literally yesterday. And so folks have now started to follow him at Pedro Amador 18 on the gram or the IG or the Insta, as the kids say. So brought in Pedro Amador to be a left back to help out for your roster depth and possible absences. So filling a hole, possibly, probably, but anticipating it is Atlanta United's front office with Pedro Amador coming in from Portugal starting the 18th of July.
Yeah, and look, it makes sense, right? July 18th would coincide with about the time Caleb Wiley is going to be gone for the Olympics. You're bringing in a left back. as you're replacing a left back, and so it certainly makes sense there, and maybe a little bit of, I'm sure people are going to read into this, maybe a little too much. Does this mean Wiley's definitely gone? Well, it means he's gone for the Olympics,
Yes.
and you wanted to improve your standing there. So we'll look into it that way, and maybe it means more, maybe it doesn't. But again, just a smart depth move for Atlanta United. It's certainly not anyone being brought in to replace Almada or to replace Giakoumakis up top. But it makes sense. So we'll, I'm not going to pretend to know this guy's quality, but we'll get a chance to see it in a couple of weeks, I'm sure.
All right. So you're hydrating. How is the prep going for you? You're doing the Peachtree on Thursday, right?
Yeah, that's part of the hydration method. We did 5.5 on Thursday. I think that's probably my last long run. Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Last year I was super confident and it was a disaster. This year I'm much less confident, so maybe I surprised myself. But we're gonna run it. We'll see how it goes. So
okay, well,
yeah.
Next Monday, I anticipate, please, a full report of your sojourn. The boss is doing it as well. And what she did 5 this past weekend. What she builds up over the months.
Yeah.
Then she'll do 5 to end June to be ready for July 4th. What she will do is now that, and this is something that I didn't know, that if you join the Atlanta Track Club and you sign a yearly membership, then no matter what your times are previously, you will be in the first half of everybody that gets released. I think she's an L group. Where are you?
Yeah, well, I do have like a qualifying time,
Okay.
which is not a great time, but so I'm in F this year. Kind of disappointed, if we're going to be honest. I've been in B and C the last couple of years.
Really?
Yeah, well, my 5K qualifying times are fast. My 10K I can't hold the speed for the last 3 miles. So, yeah, well, we're going to try and get back. Now, I'm not part of the track club, so I get penalized for that. If I was part of the track club with these qualifying times, I'd be higher up. But
right.
Yeah, we're going to run a couple of Peachtree qualifiers this year at the 5K level that should get me back up there. So we'll see. But I'll be out early enough, and then I would like to say I feel pretty good at 55 minutes and hope it's faster than that. 2 years ago I was at 52 and change, so I'd like to be in that territory again, and maybe faster. Who knows?
You got a thing tonight, right?
Yeah. So Park Bar for Copa America watch party. I'll be there starting at 8:00. Look, we all know the situation. You guys have talked about it. This is a must-win game for the U.S. men's national team, and unfortunately, it's not going to be against Bolivia again. You're facing Uruguay, and they have been the class of the group thus far, which is not a surprise. But yeah, you put yourself in a situation because of some boneheadedness in 20 minutes in where you need a win tonight. So we're going to be cheering on Team USA, U.S. men's national team at Park Bar tonight. Again, games at 9. I'll be there starting at 8 and just ready to roll. There'll be some drink specials, opportunities to win some U.S. men's national team gear and swag, stuff like that. So come on down. It should be fun. Hopefully we find a way to advance out of the group.
Yep. As always, my friend, I appreciate you dropping by, especially on a week as busy as this all across the board, whether it's morning or evening or Peachtree and all these kinds of things. We'll catch up with you after schedule compression week number 1, after the Peachtree, and we'll find out what else is on your mind coming back a week from today. Thanks for dropping by as always, my friend.
Always a pleasure, John. Have a good one.
And that's Abe Gordon, everybody. And so Abe is going to go and hang out with his, paying gig. And then he's got some stuff tonight that he's got. So Park Bar 8 to 11, Abe's going to be there. So go by, say hi, be a part of it, and bite your nails and gnash your teeth and try to keep yourself in a, how do we say this, a civilized manner. And Bart will be on in about 20 minutes to break down what's on his mind when it comes to the U.S. men's national team. Tonight, Bart's going to do 2 appearances this week. Bart is going to be on this morning, and it's going to be a setup. We'll talk about some reffing down here from the weekend. We'll talk about re-refereeing and offside, and where folks were saying outside of the southeastern footprint that Jamal was offside. And so we'll get into that rule. We'll discuss all of that. We'll discuss re-refereeing and VAR and things like that happened in the Atlanta match. And we will get into the U.S. men's national team, kind of what got us into this situation. Hopefully Bart's voice has recovered from the last time that he was on after the match day 2 loss. And now, tomorrow, Bart will be on in hour number 1. He's probably going to bat leadoff just so he doesn't get in trouble with his real work. So I'll probably have Bart batting leadoff tomorrow to lay down everything that happens tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow, and we'll be off and running with everything else that's going on. Here's the week as it runs down. Mentioned today with Bart coming on at 10 o'clock. We'll go over all the other news of the morning in between here and there and after Bart and 11:00 whatever. Then tonight, big matchup, and if you're anywhere near Oglethorpe, go to Oglethorpe. It's in the WPSL. It determines playoff positioning, seeding, who's in, who's out, where you might be going, and who you might be playing. It's UFA and Decatur FC. Decatur FC goes to Oglethorpe to take on UFA tonight in the WPSL Southeast. We will hear from Decatur FC tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It will either be to discuss a great first season that stops, or it will be to discuss a great first season that will be continuing in the playoffs. So either way, win, lose, draw in the postseason or no, Bart will be on batting leadoff tomorrow. We'll hear from Decatur FC at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to get you ready for the WPSL playoffs. USLW playoffs, they were announced. We're going to try and track down some of the folks here in the footprint, and everything has been pushed to, in this region, to Asheville on Friday. So we'll see if we can catch up with our friends at Tennessee SC in Asheville on Friday to kind of get the lay of the land in the WPSL playoffs as they are down into their postseason. So also Wednesday, and because there is no show Thursday because of July 4, I'm trying to slide things forward from Thursday to Wednesday. So Tyler is safe at 9:15. Then Nino Torres is going to be joining us, and yes, he is in Peru. Nino joins us from his pad in Peru, and he's going to break down what he sees in the Copa as we get ready for the knockout stages. Nino's going to join us 10 o'clock Wednesday morning, trying to get Nico to slide from Thursday to Wednesday at 10:30 so we can get Nico's thoughts heading into schedule compression for this week and what he thinks about the weekend that has happened and what's going to happen with the schedule compression on Wednesday. Thursday, and this was the thought that I had. I think for Thursday, what we're going to do on the network is find some of and turn it into a high school day. We're going to grab some of the great matchups that we had in season, this past season, with the high school game of the week presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. And I'm just going to schedule that the day go all day, be all of the high school matchups that were really great that we had on the air this year. And yes, I'm probably going to lead off at 9:05 with Gainesville and Johnson Gainesville. And it's going to be the entire broadcast. It'll be the pregame, it'll be the match, it'll be the postgame, all the shenanigans, all that stuff. So look at an entire day of our high school soccer coverage. That will be going on Thursday, because I know a lot of us are either sleeping in, celebrating the 4th, having friends over for cookouts, and in my case, the boss is doing the Peachtree, so I am transport. I am transport for towels and clothing and changes of clothing and making sure people are properly hydrated and making sure that folks are they have their nutrients as well. So I am the designated physical therapist / chauffeur on Thursday. So Thursday is going to be all high school all the time. We're going to have the games of the season up on the network, and we're going to run those all day long on Thursday. Friday, it's going to be trying to track down what we can to get ready for the weekend. Try and see if Jason is actually in Utah. That's the other thing. We'll see if Jason is in the Northeast at 10:30 as well on Wednesday, and see how we can squeeze Jason into the conversation. We might see if we can have Jason come in Tyler's segment. We can discuss that in hour number 1. But we'll see when Jason gets into the Northeast, and we'll see what's going on. Try to have Jason on Wednesday and on Friday from Utah, as Atlanta United is not coming home. After the New England Revolution match, they're going to Salt Lake City. They're going to Salt Lake from New England. So from Foxborough to the Rio Tinto, they're not coming home. And so we'll try and catch up with Jason a couple of times this week and see what's on his mind. And so Friday is going to be Friday. Like I said, we're going to try and see if we can track down some of the folks in the the USLW playoffs. And that is going to be anchored in Asheville on that Friday night. So if we can catch up with our friends from Asheville City and from Tennessee SC who have made the postseason, we'll see what we can do there on Friday. So that is the rundown of everything that is going on this week. Very, very busy week that we are having here at SDH. No real no real discussions of anything of any import that we never have. So once again, thanks for dropping by this morning. So it's time to say good morning to everybody. Abby, morning. Ricky, Hutch, Ropes, Tom, Bam, full Toronto now. Especially with certain individuals, you probably would get a lot of folks, at least south of the Peace Bridge, who might be interested in that. Morning, Abby. Morning, Ricky. Ricky was like, "Where is Raccoon Man?" Happened 25 minutes after you posted it. So yes, Pedro Amador. He is in on a free on the 18th. Yes, Tom. Leagues Cup at Bobby Dodd. According to Doug at the AJC, as of about 9:30, if Atlanta United advances out of group in Leagues Cup and it hosts in the round of 32, the match will be at Bobby Dodd. And they did some renovations and they did renovations to make sure that they could house regulation soccer pitches and make sure that could be an option if there was a friendly that ever wanted to knock on a door. But apparently in a situation, if you get out of Leagues Cup and host around to 32, the match is at Bobby Dodd. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's see. Yes, Ropes, good morning. Bam, how great is LAFC going to lead up to playing in Carson this week? That's going to be the Battle of Los Angeles or Escape from LA, however you want to phrase it. Let's see. Morning, David. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anybody else that I've missed in discussions with everybody that's been on the timeline. I think I'm caught up. I think I've got. I think I've said hello to everybody this morning. I think I have. I'm sitting here and scanning and trying to see. And yes, that was a very pleasant bot, by the way. That was a very, very pleasant bot. And that's one of the more pleasant messages that I've ever seen come across our timeline when it comes to bots and trying to butt their way into your conversations. So, it was what it was, and we have treated them appropriately. We have asked that they be banned. We've blocked them. We've reported them. So we'll see what our buddies at Twitch decide to do with all of that. Jarrett's coming in this morning. Jarrett, what is going on in your part of the world as we are discussing what is going on with Atlanta United? And they have apparently brought in a raccoon from Portugal this morning with Pedro Amador dropping.
Well, when I saw the raccoon, I actually got excited that we had made a deal with Salt Lake for their raccoon, or that we were getting a buy-in from the raccoons at RFK who were expanding their portfolio, because as we all know, the next great conglomeration of soccer clubs is not a sequel to Citigroup. It is the Raccoons of RFK.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I was hoping it was. But hey, cool. I mean, you got another left back in here, and with all the rumors circling around Caleb Wiley,
right?
Makes sense. And this is something we talked about. We talked about really for the last month that when we talked about silly season. I tried to stress, like, you can't forget Wiley as a part of that. Nope. Because you have Wiley, who I don't know if Wiley can legally drink yet, or if he can, it's just barely.
Yeah.
But he's been getting first team games since he was 17, 18.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games under your belt for a kid that young. So it's gonna create a high price in the market. I always thought the potential was for him to leave, for him to go around the Olympics.
Yeah.
If that would be the time. Although, according to Tom Bogert, it sounds like it's picking up steam now. So there's that.
Caleb's 19, by the way. He turns 20 a little before Christmas.
Yeah, so it's even worse than I thought. As I stare into the distance and look at my own mortality and inevitability, thanks again for that, Caleb. Yeah, man, like it's been like a morning because like you have, and I'm sure you've talked about. We can talk about it if we want to,
Yeah.
because I don't think it'll ever get old talking about what Jamal did Saturday night. You had that. You had the news this morning about Leagues Cup and throwing back to the old home.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the raccoon thing. Like, it's a lot of stuff in one morning. If you're not careful, people are gonna like not have as many things to complain about. And I don't know if they'll know what to do with themselves.
I mean, yeah, we did a cold open this morning, and I ran the extendo version of Mike and Jason, and we're still trying to.
How did you hear anything? Because the crowd might just drowns them out on the live feed.
Well, and Abe had a legitimate point where it was almost like a double pop, where you had Jamal with his activity give you that one pop. And by the way, if you have not had the chance to check out SDH's resident photog, Sophia Cupertino's photos from the evening, Sophia has been absolutely crushing it with the photos that we've been able to release in Copa and with Atlanta United. And apparently, Efren Morales tried to drag her into the celebration after Jamal's goal. And my first question for Sophia is, did you continue to shoot pictures while you were being dragged into said celebration? Do not stop working, even if folks want to drag you into something. But Sophia has been absolutely crushing it with her photos here in the summer of soccer. And, you had that moment that gave you the first pop. And then when you go full time, you get that second rise. I mean, literally, it's like one of those. It's almost like the end to WrestleMania 40, where you had run in, then you had another run in, then you had another run in. You go pop, 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 and it was like the main event at WrestleMania 40, or the pay-per-view when you had Punk and Randy Orton coming back. It was just one of those kinds of things. But sometimes you just Sometimes you just got to have moments like that. And the fact that it happened against Toronto, the other element that we haven't gotten into this morning, Jarrett, about that and really in depth is what happened during the play. And you only had one player from Toronto kind of point behind Luka Gavrin to sit there and go, hey, you got somebody behind you. And it ended up being that player that was racing back to try to help out defensively from a 25-yard deficit once the ball was put on the ground. There was virtually no communication, and sure as hell couldn't hear yourself if you were on the back line of Toronto, hey, dude's behind you. Because, I mean, even if you're on the Atlanta United bench, no way that you could be heard. And so no communication from the back line of Toronto or anybody from Toronto except for one person, and Luka Gavrin would have had to have been looking at that person to get that communication to know that Jamal was behind you. So, I mean, this I think is as much on Toronto's defense as anybody else in that case.
He's also on the bench.
Yeah.
And they're far away. It's hard, but it's kind of like if there's ever a time to run out there and tackle your goalkeeper and take a yellow card for it, it's that.
Yeah. And that's what you should have done in this case, and you didn't, and you end up with a moment like this. And Jason, for those of you that missed it on the full-time report, caught up with Brad to get the GK Union response to all of this. And two of the first people to go up to Luka Gavrin, Quentin Westberg and Brad Gazan. They know that GK Union is strong, and that I would imagine that Q had some time with Luka when they were at Toronto FC, Luka coming through the system and Quentin Westberg being one of the first team keepers. So I would anticipate that there is some familiarity there. and that Brad, starting keeper to starting keeper, you want to go up to your fellow starting keeper in that situation and be supportive in that moment, considering everything that happened. In the result ended up going against you in one of the most unforeseen things you could have ever seen. But GK Union was strong in that regard.
Pretty sure Jamal did too.
Yeah, Jamal, after the goal, Jamal, Luka Gavrin's trying to gather himself, and Jamal pats him on the back as he's heading back to center circle. So they've all been there in various moments, I'm sure, throughout their careers. Not to the level that we saw with Luka Gavrin and what happened at Mercedes-Benz, but there have been gaffes, I'm sure, in every player's past that they want to just sit there and wipe off the board. And you empathize in that moment, and you saw that from Q, you saw that from Brad, you saw that from Jamal. So that was very, very cool to see that involving Atlanta United and support for Luka Gavrin in that moment. As it went down. Abby is saying that she hasn't quite looked at the Senegalese flag yet to see if she needs to wash it instead of just ironing it. And there was popcorn at the top of the flags when she went to get them. Yeah, there was a lot of popcorn that was hanging on that ledge, but absolute just scenes, and it was just unreal to have something like that happen, and just the release of all of the energy that was attached to it. So it was a fantastic moment on just another game, Jarrett, that I think was leading to more and more frustrations, where you have that moment late first half with Thiago Almada scoring and making it 1-0. Then early second half, you have the moment from Bernardeschi to tie things at 1, and it was frustrating for Atlanta United in that second half, trying to get the game winning or the game leading goal that eventually would only come at 90+6, 90+7, 97-36, I think was the time. But you gave up the goal again early part of the second half, and it was frustration for Atlanta trying to get that second goal until then.
It is, and it's a different kind of goal for me. It's frustrating because of the time context. It's a guy who has scored that goal a lot in his career, who is kind of like, go back to the first goal of the season, the Columbus goal. It's not like the closing down at the very end that makes you upset. It's you don't want to allow that big switch to allow Bernardeschi to clean down that right side, because it's a goal he scores many times.
Yep.
It's a goal he's familiar with scoring. So, but it still takes a moment of brilliance from him. It's different than having a huge let off where you let somebody walk in or nobody's marking in the box, like the first goal that was pulled back because of VAR. That one to me was worse because you can't allow. I believe that one was Insigne on the back post, who comes in late and it's just unmarked. Like that one was more of a sin to me.
Yep.
Whereas Bernardeschi's was more of a.
Bernardeschi being talented, yeah.
Yeah, Bernardeschi being talented and hitting that between two guys with her guy coming up. Sometimes you tip your hat to a guy who hits that in the same way that like so many clubs in Europe had to tip their hat to Lake Cut inside man when he was at Bayern Munich.
Yep.
It's you don't like giving it up, but sometimes that raw talent is going to do that. And you got Caleb turned, and he finished. He did well with it. And that was the thing about Gavrin was like after that, like go back and look at the highlights, man. Like Gavrin makes 2 or 3 really, really good saves.
Yeah, he does.
So I think that's like his team is, kind of trying to keep him up after the mistake. This isn't on you. You made saves. You cannot let this drag you down. It's tough in that moment.
Yeah, and I mean, what is it? I don't know. I don't know who pissed off whom, but you end up with another keeper standing on his head, not named Kenneth Vermeer. Who pissed off? Who pissed off the soccer gods? Where all the random dudes that were not known.
Bam's here, and Bam can attest to this. LAFC will ask who they pissed off. If you remember last year, Atlanta goes to LAFC and Brad Guzan rolled back the clock.
Yeah.
They'll have the same question about Brad for that game.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you.
That is correct. Yes. So that's what we are. That's what we're staring at when it comes to all of this. You mentioned Tommy Scoops. Bart's going to come in here in a second, but Tommy Scoops saying that Almada's number is 21 plus 9 million in add-ons, for now the third most expensive in MLS history. Miguel 27, Davies 22, including add-ons, and right now Thiago's to Eagle would be 21 plus a potential 9 in add-ons. So we'll keep an eye on that. We did get a Here We Go yesterday. We're not quite to the official part yet, but Thiago was out doing some regen work this morning for Atlanta United. 10 o'clock, actually 10:01. So I'm late. I'm horribly late. And so it's time to bring in Bart Keeler and talk about USMNT, some reffing down here. So look at you. Whose Lego set is that?
I don't know. It was something generated on Canva. So
I just assume he's celebrating what might be the last night of Greg Berhalter's job in the U.S. national team.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it because it is do or die, right, Jared? I mean, like the reality is, if you don't get it done tonight.
I agree with you, and I think as someone who doesn't hate Greg as much as everyone else, I do have a question, and I don't mean, and this is more like a devil's advocate question than like a genuine belief question. What happens if he beats Uruguay, but Panama obliterates Bolivia, which the most likely will? What happens if you beat Uruguay and still don't go through?
I think it's a great question because it's not very likely. It is possible that it could happen. I mean, you do have the 2-goal cushion.
Than going through.
I don't know. It depends on how many goals Bolivia or Panama can score against Bolivia. I mean, obviously, you look at the standings, and the U.S. still has that +2 goal, not technically a +2 goal differential, but they have 2-goal differential over Panama. Mm-hmm. So a win puts you at least 3 goals ahead of Panama, meaning they're going to have to score 3 goals. You also then factor into the fact that you're going to have scored. You have 3 goals scored so far. They only have 2. So, but there's still a lot of permutations that put you winning and still not going through. And it's a great question because, you could look at it and say, well, Greg had the same record, had a better record, even than, say, I don't know, the guy named Jesse Marsh, who everyone seems to be, for lack of a term, well, I'm not going to say that. People seem to be enamored by him. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of, and look, you could get a draw and have the same record as Canada did in their group stage games and end up going home, even though Canada scored just 1 goal in, I think, 5 matches now under Marsh. But you're right. I mean, I think that's the existential question is what is the standard? What is acceptable? And to me, the standard is that you have to get out of the group. That's why you hired this dude for a second cycle. And I'm sorry, I know that's really harsh because it's not Greg's fault that Tim Weah decided to punch someone in the back of the head. I do think it's very concerning that, according to Tyler Adams, they haven't really talked about that. But I don't know how you justify being the host nation not advancing to the knockouts and keeping your coach. And the Winalda statement the other day, which I don't, listen, take that for what it's worth. It's a disgruntled former player who doesn't like that every stop he's ever had, they fired him.
That's like an ex that yells out at you.
Yeah.
But say take Winalda, and I know Bart, I know you know as well as anybody. Okay, you can't take Winalda for gospel.
I'm not necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that I don't think that he is the most reliable narrator.
But that would be really disappointing.
Well, Yeah, that's very true. And I think that's going to be the question is, Jarrett, to me, this is the problem, right? And this goes beyond just what you do on the field. You have an opportunity you had one with this tournament to create goodwill, create momentum, create hype around a team that is hosting a World Cup in 2 years' time. That was what this Copa America tournament was. It was an opportunity to play high-level competition. There you go. An opportunity to play high-level competition for the last time for the next, that feels like 3 years, until 2 years until the World Cup because of the way things are going to be going. But also a way to not just test out all the stadiums to see if they work for soccer, but build the hype going into 2026. And failing to get out of the group, missing out on the knockout rounds, missing out on being part of the summer of soccer going forward, is a catastrophically blown opportunity. And then you factor in, and I know that Cindy and JT and Matt aren't necessarily pollsters taking the weight of public opinion, but there is a lot of concern and animosity, quite honestly, toward the federation and the coach. And that doesn't go away if you don't get out of the group. I don't care if you beat Uruguay. And to be honest, and I know this is going to sound like a cop-out, but the easy excuse is, well, Bielsa wasn't on the sideline. John, I know that's your face, but like, come on, that's the reality.
No. I think he's right. And to answer my own question as well, I think even if you beat Uruguay and you don't get through, I think it's very possible that you move on because of what you said. Because you have to get out of this group stage.
Yeah,
you had a layup in Bolivia. Paraguay, Panama is going to be a challenge. Always is, because Panama is just they're frisky. They're hard to deal with at times. Mm-hmm. And then Uruguay, you knew you had to take care of business with those first two. And let me put it this way as well: he wouldn't be the first coach to end up with his head on the block because of blockheaded decisions by his players who let him down. That's not always fair when we look at it from 30,000 foot view, and it sucks for coaches when that happens, but it's not unheard of. And if you don't get out of this group, I don't know, man. I don't know how you keep him there. Plus, part of me, I want Greg to succeed, and part of me thinks that if you do move on, like, he can move on. Let him go run a club, because he was very good at running Columbus. Took Columbus to an MLS Cup. A sketchy MLS Cup that they lost to Portland on if you ever go back and watch the highlights of that one, the first goal of the match from Portland is a ball that went out of bounds that they just didn't rule out. Everyone stopped playing.
He was a couple years late to VAR. He would have probably had an MLS Cup under his belt.
Yeah.
Which at that point would still be the only thing that he's ever really accomplished. But
I mean, at that point, Columbus didn't have as much of a budget. I thought he was kind of punching above his weight at times in Columbus. But let him go run a club. Let him take some of this pressure off. And I think he enjoys running the national team, and I think he likes the challenge of it. But also, part of me is kind of like, if you move on, let the man breathe a bit.
Well, and this is the perfect opportunity, the perfect window to move on. And I mean that if you're going to make a change, now is the time, because if you get grouped, right, you don't advance. Your next games aren't until September, and you'll have time after the Euros are done and their decisions over there are made, after Copa America is done and decisions here are made. That is a time to then evaluate the field. I mean, shoot, you got two guys over in France who will be done with their coaching gigs after the Olympics are finished over there. Hervé Renard is leaving the women's national team after the Olympics. And I know this name is not probably the one that everyone's thinking, but Thierry Henry, if he does well, possibly wins the Olympics with the host nation France, could be a hot commodity you could go get as well. But this is the time, because you don't play again until September, so you can take you don't have to have a head coach in charge until, even September 7th or 6th, the day before the game. And I don't want you to punt on any more time, because that was the other problem with that rehiring of Greg, where again, you had an opportunity to just move on. But it does seem like U.S. Soccer doesn't want to move on for Greg for whatever reason, despite him being only good at beating Mexico, who, by the way, are and here's your explicit rating, John. They're shit.
Buddy.
They are. Compared to what Mexico is, they are. Whew.
They are not good.
Bart's being kind about Mexico, man. Mexico is like 8 kinds of lost, like existential lost in the woods. Not even just like, man, they got talent, they just haven't put it together. No, I mean, there's some talent there, but there's no concept of a game plan. They're not getting better. They just, man, they are lost in the woods, and I don't know how Mexico gets out of this right now. Like, it is that philosophy, as I say sometimes, that no matter how bad it's going for you, I promise there's somebody who's got it worse. And right now, Mexico's that team, because, like, at least the U.S. has a really, really good roster of players and more coming down the road. But
that's Mexico's plan, is to come scout the U.S. academies for Mexican Americans.
Hey,
it's better than whatever the hell they've been doing. Also, Will, 3G to Atlanta United.
No, please don't.
You call it cursed, man. Like, if you move on for him, like, he's gonna get shots in MLS.
Well, and he should. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, Greg, I think you're right in that if you move on, Greg will find a job very quickly ahead of the club season, either within MLS now or even, and I know this is going to make a lot of people in the chat mad, but even in Europe, you can still spin your way into a European job. Or shoot, maybe he takes over Mexico because they're about to get rid of their dude. Ooh. So, the Greg will be fine. The man clearly knows how to keep a hold of his job, despite not actually doing anything worth keeping a job.
So you're saying he's soccer's version of Gus Malzahn?
It is a fire Greg year.
Well, I mean, it literally is. You get to the point. You get to the point. Should they go? Should they go? Should they separate? Should they separate? And he gets that win. Then you keep him.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, does he go? Does he go? Does he go? He gets that win. And so literally is he soccer's Gus Malzahn?
Well, a little bit. Because he definitely no, I don't even think he's got, he might be Gus. Gus made an SEC championship game, right?
Yeah.
Back and because what's his face? Chiswick did and won a title, and that was about the only good season he had.
And then it was
and then it was Gus.
Yeah. So
maybe not the worst show.
Yeah. But when I know that a lot of folks are having fun in the chat this morning involving Greg, but I mean, the bottom line is in this situation that you can't blame Greg for what happened on the field, but because of
you can still blame him for what happened on the field.
But I mean, you can't blame him for
he still conceded 2 goals.
Right, but you can't blame him for like a Timothy Weah moment.
No.
You can't blame him for something like that, but because he is in charge of it all, he is the one ultimately responsible for all of the actions.
This is a national team, John. You can't just change the players. You going to go get a new player?
You ought to be able to.
They've hired him twice now. That's the thing. They didn't just keep him; they rehired him.
Yeah. Well, and how I feel about two.
We are team one cycle here.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the problem. We're all in agreement on that. Period. And you see what happens when you have a second cycle head coach.
Yeah, you know where else that happens? Steve Clark running Scotland for a second cycle. Oof. You have arguably the most disappointing and embarrassing performance in the last 2 or 3 Euros.
Yeah. I mean, and that is Steve Clark took Scotland to a point. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even trying to he did a good job to get him to a point.
Woodson.
Yeah.
For the Hawks, he got him to a certain point, but he can't get them further.
Yeah, and that's what you have to wonder about Greg is, does this get you further? Because the reality is, you are going to be playing. I mean, not Canada and Panama clearly might be Copa America knockout round play teams, but they're not marquee matchups in the fall. New Zealand certainly is not. You're not playing the friendlies that you are going to want to build that hype toward 2026. You're not going to get that until the end of 2025, right?
Oh no.
Will Greg's never going to Scotland because Scotland is afraid of anyone who will play with the ball that much.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
They are
actually
terrified of having the ball at their feet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true there.
I am still beating the drum, and maybe it happens in 4 years. My dreams of Ange Postecoglou running the U.S. national team. I'll have to wait 4 years for that.
Yeah,
whatever.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Let me ask you, Bart, about tonight, because I know when you come on tomorrow and we can discuss what happened tonight, we know that we can carry on the coaching conversation to a bunch of different directions. How do you attack not having Timothy Weah in your lineup tonight in this matchup, where I don't think you would be rotating if you're Marcelo Bielsa, because just knowing Bielsa for who he is, you want to have your players as tip-top condition. You're going to continue doing what you do. Doesn't matter how many points you've got, where you are in the table. You're going to be pedal down, slam it in the fifth gear, no worries, and that's just how you are.
Yeah.
Knowing what we anticipate from Bielsa and Uruguay tonight, how do you see the lineup changing and the approach to try to get a lot of goals in, because you don't want to have to rely on math? How are you looking at the lineup being different tonight?
Well, I think you do one of two things. I'm going to tell you what I think Greg is going to do, because he is predictable, and he's going to move Gio Reyna out to the wing, and he's going to play the Musa McKinney-Adams midfield, because that's what Greg is predictable enough to do. What I would do is you move Pulisic to the right, and you bring on Haji Bright on the left, and now you kind of have two forwards, and certainly on the left side, you've got Anthony Robinson, who's not afraid to get up and down. So, you're not drastically changing your shape. You're just kind of shifting where Christian Pulisic plays, and you're adding another, striker essentially onto the field, even though he's playing winger. So if you need goals, that's a good idea. You still have Pepe and Sargent potentially on the bench, and you can, without Weah, you still have the opportunity to keep wingers at winger positions and have Gio Reyna on the field in the midfield. And I don't know if you saw this, but the stat from a tweet out yesterday, let's see if I can make sure I get the correct attribution here, but stated that the U.S. hasn't scored a whole lot with Gio Reyna off the field. In fact, they haven't scored at all with Gio not being on the field since the Germany friendly last fall. Now, that is, to me, the problem is because Greg likes to use Gio as the first sub off. And, we all know that Gio has a tendency he has a little bit of Giorgos Giacomakis in him. But the reality is Greg does this time and time again, where he prioritizes metrics and data and all this over go get the damn job done. Mm-hmm. And tonight's a go get the damn job done night, and you need Gio Reyna on the field to get the job done.
Jarrett, for Bart, when USMNT really needs to get goals tonight, just so math isn't a part of the problem, what else is on your mind with Bart this morning?
Let's go between the pipes, because is Matt Turner going to be able to go, and are we actually going to protect goalkeepers going forward, considering Turner got waylaid in that Panama game?
Well, Ivan Barton is not refereeing this match, so yeah, right.
So maybe goalkeepers will actually be protected this time, and people will be held responsible for their carelessness and recklessness in the game. Can't imagine that happening, though. How do you feel about Horvath in there versus Turner? I know a lot of the conversation that I saw personally on the Decomposing Bird app was that Turner makes that save, the second one.
I don't. I think
that's
a hot take.
That's unfair in the moment. especially like close range rising shot. But your confidence with Horvath in there.
I think Horvath probably, you can argue, should have done better on that goal, but there's no guarantee Turner saves that. There's no guarantee that any keeper saves that because of the way that shot's going. I mean, that's a tough save regardless, even if you get your hands on it. Also, it's fair to say that Horvath with an adequate warm-up is maybe in a better literal mindset and physical of capability to save it because he's, been preparing to be the starter. That helps too. I don't think Matt Turner has a better ceiling, higher ceiling than Ethan Horvath. We've seen that with the men's national team. But they're not markedly different. They're both not great with their feet, and they're both decent shot stoppers. I think Turner's a better shot stopper, but I don't think either one is going to be the reason why you win, lose, or draw this game. And if it is, I'll reiterate that this ball still had to go through 10 other players. So if you're just blaming the goalkeeper outside of what happened on Saturday, which still is on the defenders for not saying swipe or no swiping, but you should have, if the goalkeeper is the reason you won or lost a game, I think, again, that's a reflection on Berhalter system not being able to actually help you win games through offensive prowess.
Ivan Bartone is the kind of guy that's going to make anyone who follows soccer take to drinking heavily.
He's done it to me multiple times.
So many instances, and literally, I had to go through the Google search machine to try to. Literally, if you go onto the Googles and you do a search for Ivan Bartone referee or Ivan Bartone, controversy, you end up with a list of stuff. And when it came to Bartone and his handling or lack thereof, or if we call handling a loose construct of how he administered his thought pattern to that particular match, first and foremost, the moment where Matt Turner gets absolutely low-bridged in the 12th minute was just kind of like, we're cool. No card there. And what also angered me in that moment was that there were no players for the United States who came back instantaneously to get into a player's face about undercutting your keeper. And that could be, a deeper issue. But I think when you have, someone like an Ivan Bartone in the middle who likes to make it all about Ivan Bartone, and his thought patterns are all over the place, you're in for a choose your adventure coloring book. And you've got to kind of navigate what the heck's going on when you have something like that and someone like that who's got the whistle.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is a special kind of referee. Luckily, we don't have to worry about him tonight. And he does, I think, as you said, everything is about him. And we've seen this in multiple iterations of his refereeing of U.S. matches. And it's not that I think it's hard to say he doesn't favor the U.S. or he has a bias. I don't think that's what it is. I think he's just not a very consistent and well-managed referee.
Yeah.
And that is a style.
But he gets all the big assignments, though.
And this is the issue within CONCACAF is your big three of Canada, Mexico, USA are usually involved in the later stages of competitions where those referees aren't going to necessarily be assigned. You're not going to have a Mexico referee officiating the USA-Mexico match. You may get a Canadian. But to be fair, I mean, the best Canadian, Drew Fisher, he's probably better than Ivan. But you're not getting a high-end U.S. or Mexican referee in a lot of these tournaments because they're involved. And if you add now Canada to the mix as, especially because a lot of the Canadian referees that you would have at the international level, I'm sorry, y'all, pro referees, which means they're good referees and getting high-level matches. Everywhere else in CONCACAF specifically does not have the standard that MLS and Liga MX have. They're going to be out of their element a lot. And I think Bartone is out of his element a lot, but he's probably the closest you're going to get to the best referee outside of the USA, Canada, Mexico, and CONCACAF. That's the unfortunate reality behind this. I forget his name, but there was a Canadian referee who got all the USA Mexico matches for about a decade. It felt like because I think he spoke Spanish, which is probably one of the reasons why. But two, because Canada was still a good enough soccer nation, and again, they're involved in MLS, but not in the late stage. I mean, they weren't even in World Cup qualifying half the time when USA Mexico were playing, or in a Gold Cup final. That's going to happen. I mean, we saw this with Tori Penso getting the World Cup final last summer. Well, it's the first time U.S. women haven't been in a World Cup final. So you have to realize that referee assignments aren't just given because they're the best. It's because that's the person who is best fit for the match that's there. And I do think it a little weird that why couldn't we have had Commonwealth official in that match? If I don't know. I think that would have been nicer. But that's who we got. That was, the assignment. Luckily tonight, it is a Commonwealth official. Maybe he has some bad taste in his mouth of Uruguay, and we get some benefit of that where he's like, no, I've refereed this dude before, and he loves to pop off. So the first time he does, he's getting a yellow. That might be nice. Who knows?
The crew tonight, Kevin Ortega. It is a mainly Peruvian crew. Kevin Ortega is the man in the middle. Your ARs are Michael Orue and Steven Atoche. Your fourth is Augusto Menendez. That is your all Peruvian aspect of it. Your quality manager is also Peruvian and Victor Carrillo. Your fifth is Jose Antelo. He is from Bolivia. Your VAR is Carlos Orbe from Ecuador. Fellow Ecuadorian ref Brian Loaiza is your AVAR. And your Asesor de Arbitros, according to CONMEBOL, is Angel Sanchez from Argentina. So that is your crew for tonight when it comes to the U.S. and Uruguay. Couple of things in reffing down here that I wanted to discuss with you before you got out of here. First and foremost, there were some folks that on the Jamal TRA goal were saying that Jamal should not have been allowed back onto the field of play once he exited on his own. It was against the rules that he came back in, or saying that he was offside. What's the guideposts there about being offside and exiting the field of play and those kinds of things?
So first, I just want to say that these laws that we write that are written about players exiting and leaving the field are mostly about substitutions and gaining unfair advantages with changing players or coming on and off.
Yeah.
There are what Jamal did is not inherently against the laws of the game, because the referee was aware that he went off the field. If you weren't, then you weren't paying attention. He went off to get a sip of water like goalkeepers do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who is a goalie, there are plenty of times where the ball is at the other end of the field and I am thirsty or just yelled at someone for a long time. So I'm going to go get a drink of water, and I'll quickly hustle off the field, get a sip, and come back on. And the problem is, obviously, this was directly caused a goal. So, I think it's fair to say, wait, why is he allowed to? And the reality is because the referee saw it and allowed it. It's just about referee's permission. That doesn't mean the referee has to physically go to him and give him written authority to leave or re-enter the field.
Here's your hall pass.
Right. This also is a lot about like re-entering after an injury. Because if a player goes out injured, the referee does want to make sure that everyone's aware, like, no, he's coming back in, because most of the time you're like, okay, they're down a man or something like that, or you don't want them coming back on to where they're going to be able to steal a ball and have a hockey re-entry breakaway like we see so many times in the NHL, which is one of the coolest goals to watch your team score. It sucks when your own team concedes one.
True.
This is fine. Like, I think people want to argue about it, and they're Canadian and their opinions don't matter.
Oh, see, I had to let that one go in there. And considering that this is their July 4th, and that good timing on
it
your
is. Congratulations on
to drop the reference on their Independence Day, their Victoria Day. Well done. The other one that I wanted to specifically get into having to do with VAR is, once again, you're seeing instances of basically trying to re-referee decisions on the field and not go with the idea of the clear and obvious error and then look at it and analyze it from that perspective. I think that we continue to have the misapplication of VAR by VAR officials in tapping folks in the ear and going, yo, bro, I think you need to look at this, where instead of you have the on-field judgment call, you're now having it being re-refereed upstairs, and it's like it's past the point of, hey, I think you missed something. I think that you're now seeing I'd love to know what the times are on average for reviewing calls this year, where you might be fishing for things instead of just sitting there. It's like, okay, dude made a judgment call and letting it be what it is. I think that we're having a lot of re-refereeing from upstairs, and I think that it's a dangerous precedent.
It does feel that way right now, because I think we're still figuring out what is and isn't under the purview of VAR. Mm-hmm. And I think that the problem is also we have not held to the standard. That also said, I think we're finding ways to use technology to help us better determine clear and obvious. The little chip in the ball at Euros to determine if there's a handball is really nice.
Yeah.
Despite what people want to say, the Denmark goal, offside is offside. If we can use those lines to determine it, we should.
Yeah.
If we can use goal line technology to determine if a ball crosses over the goal line in between the posts, then that's good things that should hopefully reduce that time. But I'm with you, like going back to say, oh, that was a foul or it wasn't, is a dangerous game to play, because now you're looking at, okay, well, whose opinion is it a foul?
Right.
That also, though, is where you send a referee to the monitor and say, hey, I think you may have missed something. Go check it out.
But I wonder how many times, and I will say this, the LAFC Atlanta United moment where David Barry calls Boyko over to the monitor, and Sergi Boyko goes, no, I don't think that he was going to make it. And then Barry basically overrules and convinces Sergi Boyko that
and that is a problem. That conversation is a problem. Once that referee goes to the monitor, the conversation just needs to be, hold on, we're checking. And then once you go to the monitor, it should be just the referee on the field directing what he wants to look at, not being told what to look at.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm with you there. I mean, again, I think that the problem is you need to let the on-field official continue to make the decisions, because ultimately it's their match that they're managing. And so as the center referee in the game, you have set the tone. You're the one living it. You're the one talking to players, understanding how they want things called, how they don't want things called. To your point of the LAFC one, I don't think LAFC players would have been super hard done had the decision still been, no, that's a goal kick. Like, sorry, that was just, I mean, Brad clearly wins the ball and unfortunately took someone out, but it was, I mean, that was because Brad was going this way. Another dude was running really, two people run really fast at each other.
Yeah.
Things happen. But at the end of the day, I still maintain they got that call correct because of Brad tripping him. But I mean, I think the problem continues to be the VAR not necessarily overstepping, but not fully understanding their limitations of their roles, and not staying within just the, hey, we checked it, we probably think you should look at this, right? And again, clear and obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Clear and obvious.
Clear and obvious. Just clear and obvious.
Which, by the way, offside is both clear and obvious.
Yeah.
When you have those lines, it's clear and obvious. If you don't have lines or that technology, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But offside is a very finite and definite call.
And if you got a problem with how it's being administered through technology, change the rule. Don't change the technology.
Right.
Aye. All right, so tomorrow we are having you back. What are your plans for this evening? What are the Outlaws' plans for this evening in gnashing of teeth and chewing of nails?
I'm sure there will be a lot of stress involved, but we will be at Fidel Midtown starting at probably 8. I'll probably get there. Probably people are a little bit earlier than I will be. But game is at 9, so we'd love to have y'all there. It is going to be nervy, I won't lie. That said, John, this is the positive. If I can leave on some positive notes. I mentioned for 2026 and that this could be a catastrophic loss of that opportunity. However, it could be the next Landon Donovan moment. And if you get at that goal that propels your team into the round of the quarterfinal round after staring elimination in the face, that can also propel your team forward and galvanize a fan base around you. Give them hope, give them something to cheer for. That's the positive outlook for tonight, is you get one of those moments. And again, you have to also remember, Panama and Bolivia have to go play soccer too. And nothing about this is written, is said and done. Panama scored 2 goals against us. They got 1 against Uruguay. They're not incapable of scoring goals. Bolivia might be, but they're not exactly scoring goals against teams that were fully locked in that manner, right? I mean, they score a late goal against Uruguay after conceding 3. They got lucky and scored against a 10-man U.S. team, which Canada should maybe learn from that. I don't know. They should try scoring. Sorry, Canada, you're catching all the strays today. I'm tired of people talking about Jesse Marsh, telling me he's somehow this great a coach when they barely snuck through this group stage and whatever. But you have an opportunity to create a memory and an inflection point, one way or the other. Hopefully it's a positive inflection point to rally the troops behind your team heading into the 2026 World Cup with a memorable moment. And that's the key for tonight. Win the moments. How many times have we said that on this here show, talking about a team losing because they lost the moments? You have to win the moments tonight. And if you do that, you'll have a lot of fans with a lot of great memories about y'all doing that and falling in love with you.
And we will see if it is fawning or if it is fanning after the match.
Hold on. Bam. Canada advanced. The U.S. is still in the tournament. So hold your daggum horses there, okay? Also, I'm just saying, you scored 1 damn goal. 1 damn goal. Now, that's like, what, set 0.73 of a goal, really. So don't be all high and mighty because Chile and Peru gave y'all red cards to play against.
Yeah. So
maybe y'all should focus on scoring.
Yeah, well,
1 goal in 5 matches under Jesse Marsh. 1.
Bam is thinking it through from the concept of the entire monarchy. He's representing the monarchy and the Commonwealth on the whole. That's why Australia is chiming in on a Canadian matter. So we will have you back here tomorrow in some capacity in hour number 1. You're probably batting leadoff, considering the import of the event.
Yes.
So probably 9:10ish, somewhere in there. You
9:10ish. I love it.
9:10. Well, I mean, because I've got to play the goals and get everybody all gassed up in a nice lather before you come on batting leadoff tomorrow. So make sure that you are properly hydrated, that you have everything all prepared, that you have your setup all there, and we will catch up with you tomorrow, my friend, about what happens. Match day 3 in the group for U.S. and the Copa, and we will find out what our answers are.
Then I'm even drinking out of an Australian cup today. You can't see it. There you go.
Oh, wait, look closer. In front of you. Put it in front of you.
Yeah, I'm trying.
There we go. There it
Sydney.
is.
See?
Yeah, see? There it is. So he's got the Sydney Bridge and all of that. So, all right. So we'll catch up with you at 9:10 tomorrow, and we'll discuss what happens tonight. And I know that you'll probably have a lot of spleen venting to do, and that's why you're going to be on in hour number 1. And your real world job is going to have to sit there and wait and understand that you got some important talking to do.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.
All right, there goes Bart. And as always, it's great to have Bart as he's discussing things from Bam, I can't say that on the air. Bam is discussing how Sydney is not named Sydney to everyone else outside of Sydney. So that's tonight. And we'll have Bart on tomorrow as a part of everything. So it looks like Wednesday is Tyler, Nino, and Nico, and something involving Jason as well. So Wednesday is stacked. Thursday is going to be high school matches aplenty all day long on the network. And Bart will be on tomorrow at 9:15. Decatur FC will be on at 10, and we'll discuss everything going on there. News and notes and any of the other stuff that's going on in the Euros, anything on your mind before we go? It appears Jude Bellingham might be in trouble. He could be punished by UEFA for a gesture he made after his goal against Slovakia. So he scores the bicycle kick, 5th minute of added time, and they were 1-0 down and that close to being eliminated from the tournament altogether. Bellingham scores, and then as he's walking back to center circle, gives the impression that he wants to grab his junk. And he stares at the Slovakia bench while he's doing it. So UEFA, not a fan. Bellingham clarified, quote, an inside joke gesture towards some close friends who were at the game, nothing but respect for how that Slovakia team played tonight. UEFA released a statement saying they will conduct an investigation into the alleged gesture. Quote, UEFA Ethics and Disciplinary Inspector will conduct a disciplinary investigation. Well, I would hope that ethics and disciplinary inspectors would conduct a disciplinary investigation regarding a potential violation of the basic rules of decent conduct by the English Football Association player Jude Bellingham, having allegedly occurred in the scope of this match. Laws of the game say any obscene gesture or offensive or insulting action should be punishable by a red card. In 2019, CR39, then playing for Juve, was fined €20,000 by UEFA, but avoided a suspension for his goal celebration against Atletico Madrid that was deemed improper conduct. He was mimicking Diego Simeone, who had performed a similar gesture in the first leg of their Champions League clash and was also fined. Ronaldo was banned for a match earlier this year by the Saudi Fed for a similar gesture while playing for Al Nassr. In Gelsenkirchen, they go into the rest of the match, and basically they got a picture of Ronaldo with the obscene gesture, and it was basically him hulking up in front of Simeone. So there you go. It looks like there will be a disciplinary investigation involving Jude Bellingham. Bellingham kind of reaching in the neighborhood of his junk is different than CR39 hulking up and staring at Diego Simeone, but €20,000 was the marker in that particular match for Cristiano Ronaldo. We'll see what happens involving Jude Bellingham, if anything, and we'll see what happens involving that. No real update on anything, and I know that once again, Doug Robertson of the AJC was going to come up with a story on AJC.com about the email that season ticket holders got about Leagues Cup and where the match, if they get out of group, will be played over at Bobby Dodd. And like I said, Bobby Dodd has undergone some renovations, and it was only went to those who opted in. Thank you, Abby. And so literally when Bobby Dodd was renovated, they expanded the field surface. So you could have events there involving the sport of soccer if it ever got down to that particular idea. So that's where we are involving Atlanta United, but we'll see. So if it's Leagues Cup, then goes to the rest of the season ticket holders next week. Thank you, Abby. So right now, as things stand, get out of group. Your knockout would be over at Bobby Dodd, and so we'll see what happens and see how that is responded to by the season ticket holders and by Leagues Cup. So yeah, it's really weird that you only have the matches, let's see. So this month it is road trip, fraction. Then it is road trip. Then you're back with the 2 home matches in July on the 17th and the 20th with NYC and Columbus. You're having me look at my calendar now, too. 17th is NYC. Columbus is on the 20th of July. Then you have, by the way, the 2s are at home on the 14th of July. So go to the fraction on the 14th and go see Atlanta and Columbus. We'll talk about the 2s in a little bit. You end up with All-Star after that, Leagues Cup on the 26th. The 2s are in Huntsville on the 27th. Chelsea and Club America are on the 31st, and that gets you through July. Then the 2s play at New England Revolution August the 3rd. Leagues Cup is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, August 4th. And then you get into the college schedule and the 2s schedule and the Olympic break involving August, where you do not have an Atlanta United match of any kind going through Leagues. Well, you've got Leagues Cup, then you've got the group stage of Leagues Cup. If you get out of that, you get the knockouts, and then that schedule is still up in the air. And then you get into you get into American football season there. So you have until the 17th of July before you end up with your first match, your first home match in July with Atlanta United. So that's what we're staring at here. Thoughts from you guys this morning. Finally had the chance to drift into what's going on in the Twitch pitch, and I know that you guys. It's like I said, it's always great that you guys have your own conversations and get to catch up with one another on a daily basis. And yes, I will agree, Ricky, that the video of Mike and Jason in the booth was great. I wish that I know that there's probably an extended version of that video someplace. Really looking forward to seeing the extendo version. But yeah, we had the extendo audio version of the call from Mike and Jason to start the show this morning. Yeah, situational awareness award named in Jamal's honor. So, yeah, and so no, Tom, nothing happened while you were gone. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to buzz through Grand Theft TRA. Thank you, Ricky. Like I said, I've seen Magic City Miracle, but you'd probably have to come up with something with lemon pepper and wings or something like that. David, watching Mexico freaking out about the cramping and time wasting Ecuador is doing just like they normally do with some CONMEBOL justice. Yeah, David, to your point about Mexico, I mean, it is after the match was over, seeing the pundits on television, literally they had just gotten from the end of the soccer broadcast and into the punditry post-game programming, and you're seeing coaches talking to players, and they're all in that circle on the field in Glendale. Literally, I heard the word crisis mentioned within the first 2 sentences. And it is. And we talked about it with Bart and Jared a little bit, that right now Mexico, they waited too late to transition in their younger players, and you have this mishmash of talent, and it's just not working. It is not working, and you need the patience to cycle those folks in and let them learn. But as we all know, that to be perfectly honest, the rational fan behavior and the rational pundit behavior in Mexico is always going to be there from day one. But no, literally the second or third sentence in the post game from the pundits: crisis. Yeah, you're not good. And that's on you for waiting too long to integrate your younger players into the whole process. So, yeah, that's on Mexico for not getting out of group. And so Hutch, Texas Jack from Tombstone. Did you ever see anything like that before, Turkey Creek? Jack Johnson, hell, I ain't never heard anything like that. Absolutely true. So, figure out parking. Take Marta for the round of 32 in Leagues Cup, the first round of the knockouts. Marta. Take Marta to North Avenue and walk across like the old days. Ricky agrees. So that's what you got to do. Construction they're doing at Bobby Dodd makes it feasible. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's not like 65 or 67 or what it was in the old days. I mean, literally it is 70. It is closer to 70. I think it's like 70 or 72. But no, I think it is. I think it is legitimate in its size. It's not like Yankee Stadium where Peter Vermes walks it off and it's like 67. But no, it's regulation. Yeah, Peter, it's regulation. We're okay. No, I think legitimately it is now regulation. Tom is making a play for a Griezmann with all of the outgoings and the finances that are there. And Hutch is always wondering about how quickly you can integrate individuals within the club when you bring them in. Yes, Tom, and yeah, the idea this is not Mercedes-Benz. Boiling in the sun, not being able to get concessions, waiting an hour to get in, weather delays, cancellations. Yeah. But yeah, Miguel Almiron, and Miguel may not necessarily, have a whole lot of choice in the matter if Newcastle's going to try to get into PSR regulations. So keep an eye on the clubs that are in financial concerns and constraints in the Premier League, because I think today is like the last day that you can do these kinds of moves and be in line with PSR, profit and sustainability rules. I think today's the last day where you've got to show what's going on. And yes, karma is, in this case, as Tom says, and Gigi got hurt in his first game, in this case, karma is not the guy playing on the Chiefs. The guy who's playing at Cruz Azul. Literally, on 2 to NA, he goes down. I think it was an ankle. And correct, Bam, your mate's brother's girlfriend's dad's boss's son's mate's sister's partner is not a reliable source. Might be if there's a relationship there where it's real close to the individuals and the information at hand, but traditionally the answer is no. That is not the way. Harry is telling us that he is not a bot this morning. So, official date of the Olympics, Abby doing the public service, July 26th through August 11. And so you've got that. Yes. Happy new financial year. Yes. It is the beginning of the new fiscal for those of you that celebrate. A lot of new celebrations, Victoria Day, new fiscal year day, all of these. And Ricky, yes, Kennesaw is a member of Conference USA, which really just needs to be the Big Ten. Big Ten should just call themselves Conference USA, considering they go from one end to the other. They should just trade off for branding purposes. Let Conference USA, considering they've got 10 members, be the Big Ten. And let Conference USA be the Big Ten. So, all right, let's see what else you guys have. David went to Decatur FC on Saturday. 5th largest crowd in the WPSL this year. Heard the thievery radio call in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru on Ponce. Decatur FC, we mentioned it earlier in the show. Decatur FC got the big win on Saturday night. Today, they're over at Oglethorpe. 7 o'clock kick, UFA and Decatur FC to determine seedings, who's in, who's out, who goes where in the Southeast. The Southeast has been rough for a division this season in the WPSL. Just to let you know where things stand in the WPSL heading into the last couple of days of the regular season. In the Southeast, it is chaos. I mean, there is no other way to describe it. Same in the NPSL as that's winding down. But this past weekend, next to last weekend of the regular season, 865 got a win against Nashville. Chattanooga got a win against Nashville on Saturday. Decatur shut out Nashville Rhythm 2-0. Atlanta Fire beat FC Birmingham 3-0. 865 got a big win at home against Georgia Impact at Hardin Valley 4-0. So today, UFA hosting Decatur at Oglethorpe. That's at 7. On Saturday, Atlanta Fire closes out the regular season with a game at Pinecrest Academy against Chattanooga FC. That is the end of the grid for the WPSL Southeast. And that win for 865 has it all laid out pretty much. Atlanta Fire Chattanooga, UFA, and Decatur. Only teams that have matchups left. Right now, 865 has 20 points. 6 wins, 2 draws, 8 matches. They're in the barn. UFA and Decatur. Now, here's the fun part. UFA Gunners, 7 matches played, 5 wins, 2 draws. They're at 17 points. Decatur at 5-1-1. They're at 16 points. Decatur has same number of goals as Nashville Rhythm. They both scored 22. But they are ahead on goal difference with Nashville by 6 goals. So right now, Decatur is 3. Nashville at 16 points is number 4. Georgia Impact with that loss in at Hardin Valley against 865 propelled 865 up the table. Georgia Impact will finish 5th in the division. Record of 4-2-2. Great season for Coach Rod and everybody there at Georgia Impact. 6th is Chattanooga FC right now. They and Atlanta Fire United. They have each won twice. FC Birmingham has won once. FC Nashville went through the regular season, did not win a match. So literally it was in the 9 clubs in the WPSL Southeast, 5 for 4 spots. And it's a big match tonight for UFA and Decatur. So if you're in the neighborhood of Oglethorpe, go. Go, 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 go. Go, go, go. So that's where we are when it comes to the playoffs and what to look at and what you're chasing after. South Power rankings, by the way. UFA's at 3, 865's at 4, Nashville Rhythm's 5, Decatur is 6, Georgia Impact is 7. So the top 5 teams in the Southeastern Conference, all top 7 in the power rankings in the WPSL South. So you're staring at a tremendous ending to the season in the WPSL Southeast. And like I said, if you are anywhere near what's going on at Oglethorpe or any of your favorite clubs, go visit. Regular season's winding down. And so check in on your favorite clubs right now. Playoffs in the South region are July 13-14, regional semis and regional finals. July 13-14. That way they advance through in the WPSL. But it's been fun to cover the WPSL all season long. And yes, Ropes, happy Canada Day. Let's see. I'm trying to see and yeah, like I said, I don't know if the Senegalese flag, if you need to wash it instead of just ironing. I think you might need to wash it. I think you just might need to. Let's see. Abby on the Greg Berhalter discussion. Will they have the chutzpah to fire him? And for those of you that don't know Yiddish, that's basically the testicular fortitude, the guts, however you wish to phrase it. You might not have any choice. It might not come down to chutzpah. It might just come down to we probably need to. And I think that's the hook in all of this, is that you're to the point where you may not have any choice in the matter. If you do not get out of group and you are the host nation for this tournament, you may not have a choice. Players aren't doing it for you. You can only give them so much to do. You can't have players rabbit punching others in the back of the head. But you may not have a choice if you're the USMNT. You may not. Will's looking for Steve Cherundolo to be the new head coach for the USMNT. Right now, I know that Bam is like, no. But I think legitimately, and Bam, if you're still with us down there in Australia, ever since the exit from CONCACAF Champions League, I don't think Steve Cherundolo has coached LAFC the same. I really don't. They have become far more pragmatic, and I mean that in a negative way. There are times where they do unleash. Literally what they do is they try to find ways to unleash Bogusz and Denny Bwanga, and you saw that here at Mercedes-Benz. Atlanta United defended very, very well against LAFC. But I don't get the vibe that they're the same team that they have been. I just don't think they're the same. I really don't. And Ropes, to your point, asking about Uruguay. Knowing Bielsa, I don't anticipate them rotating. He wants his guys out there 120% of the time and slam it in the fifth gear all the way through. I would anticipate you're going to get a first-choice lineup and see what happens there. Bam, Greg has brought 99% of USMNT supporters together in hating him. But, yeah, for those of you that didn't know, Marcelo Bielsa will not be on the touchline tonight because much like Lionel Scaloni and Argentina, if you don't bring your team out in a timely fashion, you get suspended for a match. Timothy Weah got 2. Coco Carrasquilla for lumberjacking Christian Pulisic also got 2. So that's where we are. Will says, Gigi to Scotland, call AJ because it's a styles clash. Yeah. Bam is thinking that Greg to SDH. I don't know. I don't know if that would play, but Ropes, to the point, we don't have the sneaker budget. And besides, if we had a sneaker budget, we'd spend it on ourselves and other things. So that would be my thought, is that if we had a sneaker budget, we'd be spending it on ourselves. We wouldn't be bringing in talent to just here's your sneaker budget, Greg. I don't know about that. Will wants to know who our most dark arts forward or midfielder that we can bring on. That's interesting. Will, save that one for tomorrow. Who's our most dark artsy and wow, who would be the most? I don't know if that particular team is structured for dark arts. That's an interesting question. Who would be the most dark artsy and individual? It might have been Weah. Or maybe Christian Pulisic. I don't know. We'll find out. Temps in Kansas City will not be a factor. Abby doing the Lord's work in producing. Raining today, low 80s at game time. Well, and Will Bartone, and we talked about Ivan Bartone with Bart. He's got a heavy pedigree of calling big matches. Remember the Mexico match in CONCACAF Nations League where they were trailing and then they got like 11 minutes of stoppage? That was Bartone. 11 minutes of stoppage. I think it was against Honduras. And so Bartone has a history of doing things that folks will point at him and go shenanigan. But, yeah, so he was responsible for Mexico's comeback in the Nations League. And apparently when he was flying home to El Salvador after the match, he was in the airport and he's wearing sunglasses. He's kind of chilling, doing his thing. He got on the plane and there were a lot of Honduran supporters on the flight. And the Honduran supporters were jeering him on the plane and asking the airline to circle around the airport a little longer because they needed more time added to their flight. They wanted to stay on the plane with Ivan Bartone. They wanted to have more time added to their flight. So they were giving Bartone and the airline a share of ish over all this stuff. Will says maintains that Tim doesn't get sent off if Bartone shows a card on the Turner Challenge. And that's what we talk about with navigating matches and having control. I think if you set a tone, we talk about game state. I think if you set a tone with a yellow on the Matt Turner crash in the 12th minute, I think if you set that tone, I don't think we get all the activity. I don't think that you get Timothy Weah rabbit punching a player in the back of the head. I don't think you get it. I don't think you do. But once again, Bartone has never been one to sit there and cause calmness in any kind of his matches because it's all about Ivan Bartone. No doubt he got questioned. No doubt that Weah got frustrated after that. Absolutely. So Will says John Herdman can chew on a lemon, among other things. Yeah, a lot of folks they're not fans of John Herdman. But yeah, Tom, it's like you got a home match July 20th, and right now in leagues play, you don't have another one until September 14th. You don't know about Leagues Cup and getting out of the group stage and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to see what else is What else is up there? Yeah, Wiley needs to rewatch the end of the game with Caleb's shoving match. And this was what I missed. I'd heard that there was a tete-a-tete after the match was over, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was about because the cameras weren't on it. I just saw like this. You have one camera shot, then you see this mass of players rushing towards something, and they didn't follow it. So, Wiley, you're ahead of me in the Caleb shoving match when it comes to the end of the match on the weekend. So, just before Chiare's goal. Okay, so there was something that happened after the match was over, and it's like you see these folks rushing over into a pile, and I don't know what happened there. So, it was, there was an out of control incident after the match was over. So, I got to double check and see what's going on with all of that. And some folks like Wiley going to the Dodd game just for the nostalgia. Tom says, however, he's moved twice since there. No idea where he'd be this time. Yeah, and Bam, I'm sure that there's always a if you fire, I'm sure you're responsible for the remainder of the salary that's attached. So morning OG, morning Wiley, now that you guys are back, that you guys are in this morning. Also, other notes from practice. Like I said, pretty much this morning, it is Wiley training, Abram back from Copa. Tiago isn't training. Some first teamers are just doing regen. And so that was the notes that we had involving Atlanta United at early practice. If you missed it, the numbers attached to Tiago right now look like it could be 21. Obviously, a percentage of the pass in there somewhere too. So my guess is 21, and it had been listed that it might be 25, might be 30. So 21 and 20% of the pass, and then probably performance metrics and things like that. It would be the number 3 transfer in the history of the of Major League Soccer. News from in and around, all of the gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And for this, we usually end up going to Ben Jacobs. And follow Jacobs Ben on the Twitters if you would. Spurs closing in on a deal for Archie Gray. Personal terms agreed. Package now being finalized with Leeds, who can still attempt to declare on the financial year. Spurs just jumped right in after the bid collapse with Brentford. Chelsea confirmed that 18-year-old striker Marc Guiu is joined from Barcelona after triggering the €6 million clause, 5-year deal, option for a further 12. Quote from Guiu saying he's excited. PSG confirmed Mary Earps is signed on a free after leaving Manchester United. 2-year deal, highest paid women's keeper in football. PSG beat a couple of others in getting Mary Earps, but Earps is going to be at PSG through 26. Damari Gray could leave the club that he is at in the Saudi. Al Ettifaq, he could leave this summer. Galatasaray and a Premier League club seem to be interested. Dewsbury Hall has signed his contract at Chelsea, awaiting the official announcement. Manchester City looks like front runners for Vivian Miedema from Arsenal, despite interest from Bayern Munich. We mentioned the Jude Bellingham situation. Mentioned Miggy. Newcastle in talks with a club from the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. Because set to be cash in. Saudi transfer window opens today. That's the other element in all of this. Keith Downey, the Newcastle reporter for Sky, didn't know the fee and to which club, but understands that talks have been taking place. Newcastle have already sold Elliot Anderson and Yakuba Minte this weekend, and as well as to allow Dan Ashworth to join Manchester United to deal with their PSR issues. So that's the news on Miggy. Al-Shabaab, according to Ben Jacobs, had provisionally agreed to a fee close to €30 million with Newcastle, but Almiron wanted to stay at Newcastle in January. So is Al-Shabaab getting back into the business of Miguel Almiron? Leeds believe they're going to comply with PSR. Never true. They needed £100 million in sales. The Archie Gray fee plus Sinisterra and Tyler Adams sales to Bournemouth, recent Red Bull investment, mean the club need to comply with financial rules for the cycle ending yesterday. Leeds is now in a stronger position regarding Somerville as well, taking into account any player that asks to leave should an appropriate offer arrive, but won't have to scramble for sales with a view in any near-miss business in the coming weeks. So the Archie Gray package is looking like $40 million, valued up to $30 with Joe Rodon going the other way as a part of the deal. Spurs have met Leeds' payment structure, and the talented 18-year-old has come to terms. Marissa Olis-Lagers joined Brighton, 23-year-old defender, 2-year contract from SC Twente, reported by Flow. Kevin De Bruyne was asked if he's staying at Manchester City this season. Whoops. And he goes, yes. Read a lot of headlines about a transfer to Saudi Arabia, but I haven't spoken to anyone. I saw Michael Emanalo at the Club World Cup. Emanalo is the league sports director. He says, I know Michael, so it makes sense for us to have a chat, but it wasn't about that. Sign my contract at the right time. If there's a good offer and you tell Pep you want to leave, then it's possible. This may be different at other clubs, but I've never indicated that I want to leave. I have more than enough money, but if an absurd amount comes in, then it's also for my family, relatives, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and my friends. Ipswich confirmed Ben Johnson's joining on a free after leaving West Ham, signed a 4-year deal. Big news for Ipswich. Villa confirmed the double signing of Enzo Barrenechea and Samuel Illing Jr. from Juve. Separate deal, same club. Crystal Palace confirms that Daichi Kamada has joined on a 2-year deal, subject to international clearance. 27-year-old was a free agent after leaving Lazio. Bing X is now going to be the men's training wear partner for the next 2 years. Infinite Athlete migrating to the sleeve. The latter was always a part of Infinite Athlete's original deal. We mentioned the Dan Ashworth deal with Manchester United. Official compensation package agreed to avoiding the need for arbitration. Starting as sporting director immediately. Nottingham Forest confirmed Elliot Anderson is signed from Newcastle. £35 million contract until 29. Goalkeeper Odysseus Vlachodimos has joined Newcastle in return. We mentioned Minte joining from Newcastle to Brighton for around £30 million. 18-year-old winger signed a contract through 2029. Omari Hutchinson has joined Ipswich from Chelsea. Contract till 29, £22 million package, including add-ons. Arsenal get 15%. Chelsea have a 25% sell-on clause. Club record signing for Ipswich, top target this summer. Kieran McKenna had a quote that is through social media. Let's see if there's anybody else that I've missed in one way or another when it comes to all of the things. Yeah, exactly. 4Card wants me to wrap so we can get to the way that it usually goes. The second we go off the air is when we end up having another announcement involving Atlanta United. So, like I said, we did get a here we go from Fabrizio Romano to Eagle Holdings. We got that on the weekend. Nothing officially official from Atlanta United. First teamers are doing regens this morning after what happened on the weekend with Atlanta United. But let's see if there's any other gossip, rumor, and innuendo that we missed. And if there's any other gossip that's there, then we'll talk about what to watch, where to watch it, and then we'll be back tomorrow once again. Bart will be on. Bat and leadoff. Decatur FC will be on at 10 o'clock. So, all right. What are we missing? Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, all interested in 22-year-old Italy defender Riccardo Calafiori, but will have to pay in excess of £40 million to get him away from Bologna. Number of Barcelona directors remain unconvinced about the merits of signing Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao. Leicester close to agreeing to a deal to sign 18-year-old midfielder Michael Golding from Chelsea. Manchester United unlikely to pursue a deal for Barcelona defender Ronald Araujo despite long-standing interest. Eddie Howe has made it clear in the talks with the club's board they should not look to cash in on Alexander Isak this summer amid Chelsea interest, and Spurs set to trigger an option to extend Heung-min Son's contract with the club until 2026. Remember, once again, Pedro Amador signs on a free as a free agent from Moreirense in the Portuguese Primera. He's going to be a left back, so he has left back insurance for Atlanta United. Literally, he's played, of his matches, they've all been left-hand side. He has played 89 matches as a professional. 74 have been as a left back, 14 as a left midfielder. One match he did play left wing, but he is a left-handed, left-sided dude, and this is Caleb Wiley insurance, however deep you want to phrase it. So the Pedro Amador signing, he joins when the secondary window opens up after the NYC match on the 18th of this month. Once again, before we go and get out of here, we know who's broadcasting matches. We know who's doing stuff, but we got to lay it all out for you here before we go. So listed as the toughest test for the USMNT since the 22 World Cup. Soccer on TV today. Portugal, Slovenia is on Big Fox at 3 o'clock. France and Belgium is at noon on FS1. Copa America has USA, Uruguay at 9 o'clock. FS2 has Bolivia, Panama at 9 o'clock. 2TN has USA, Uruguay. Unimas has Bolivia, Panama. Univision has USA, Uruguay. Argentine Primera is on Paramount Plus. Barraca Central, River Plate's at 2. San Lorenzo, Rosario Central at 4:30. VIX has all 4 matches, the 2 from the Euro and the 2 from Copa America. So that's your rundown of what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and go about doing your stuff. Tomorrow, Bart at 9 early, batting leadoff, 9:10. And Decatur FC coming on at 10 o'clock to break down their season, whether we're talking playoffs or whether we're talking about a successful first year in the WPSL. All of that tomorrow, plus the USMNT. So watch the match, get your rest, get your takes ready, and here we go. Well, yeah, 4-card because maybe 9:05, maybe 9:10, depending on what kind of audio we have to start things off with opening kickoff. So 9:05, so I said 9:10. Somewhere in there. Mucha Platiel, play it safe. We'll be back in a little less than 22, and we'll lay it all out for you with what happened with the USMNT, anything else on your mind with the Euros. So as always, the way that this rolls is play it safe, everybody. It's the end of the show. That means I have to do the Gary Shandling close over the color slide.